kitchen and we are preserving cherry tomatoes. We've grown several varieties this year. This one's my favorite, Sun Gold, and some regular standard red cherry tomatoes. We've grown some tiny little spoon tomatoes and some purple turns to red when it's ripe blueberries tomatoes. And so one of the things that I know I've struggled with in the past is when you have so many cherry tomatoes, what do you do with it all? How do you preserve it? Last year we fermented cherry tomatoes and had a really lovely salad tomato in December. So that was really exciting. And so today we're going to share with you on how we made that happen. So although I've gotten to enjoy nice fermented tomatoes, I am not the expert. I look to my mom to teach me how to ferment, and so she's going to do the tutorial today on how to ferment cherry tomatoes.
Well, this is one very quick and easy and very, very healthy way to eat your tomatoes. There are hundreds of probiotics in here that are good for your tummy, and it lasts a long time. This is a very, very old technique. So we're going to start by fermenting our cherry tomatoes. This is the one we did recently, where they have fermented in a brine of salty water. Basically, that's it. There's some garlic and herbs in there, and they turn into a most lovely flavor. They're now preserved for 6 months in the refrigerator, just like this with a lid on. And here's how you do it. So I'm just going to use our bowl of cherry tomatoes and put as many as will fit in my quart jar. And all you need is salt. This is a fine Redmond sea salt. I'm going to put 2 teaspoons per quart and give it a good stir just to dissolve the salt to get it started. And actually I'm going to taste it to see. Some of the formulas out there are just too salty. So that's enough to kill off any of the bad pathogens, but you don't want too much to make it unpalatable. Now it's a little salty, but I think after it soaks into the vegetables, it'll be just fine. So I'm putting in garlic and basil and thyme, oregano, and green onions from our garden. You can put anything you want, any flavor that's going to enhance your tomatoes. And then just pop these. You need to just wash them. You don't need to prepare them in any special way. This little purple grape tomato, they're going to be so pretty. So the big deal about fermentation is that you want to kind of minimize the air in there, and so you're going to put as many in there as will fit to displace the air. I will top this off with a bit of water, and it'll sit on the counter for maybe 3 to 4 days. Tomatoes ferment pretty quickly because they've got quite a bit of sugar in their cellular structure, so that ferments pretty quick in an average temperature of the house in summertime, 75 degrees-ish, and it'll sit on the counter. So I put as many tomatoes in there as can fit. I'm going to take the back of my spoon and just sort of very gently reach down in the bottom and sort of fit them as much as possible down there so that they all kind of displace any air that's left. What we want to do is submerge them under the water, so this means I need a little more water in this particular jar to top it off, so I'll do that. And I'm giving myself a headspace, so I'm going below the rim of this mason jar. So I've got enough water topped off. I'm going to use a large leaf to cover the top before I put a weight over it. This is a grape leaf from our yard. It's wild. And a bay leaf. the reason I've chosen those is to, they sort of, because of the tannic makeup, they sort of keep the mold. Any mold that might grow on the surface will be deterred from having these two things on the top. So I put this down. Now I have some options as to what to weight this down with. We can fill a little Ziploc bag with some water and use that. We can use a pickle pebble, which is just a glass little pebble made to fit into the mason jar. Or we can use a little 1/4 pint jar and press it down, which this one I filled too much to do that. So my choice today is going to be using my trusty pickle pebbles. They're just plain little heavy glass weights. Give it a little rinse. And then I'm going to pop it down on top of this lovely leaf and press. And the water is coming out, so that shows me that I have put a little too much water in at this point. And I'm going to dump just a smidge off, because again, my point is I want them submerged under the liquid. Anaerobic, no oxygen, because the oxygen will cause it to spoil. So I've got a few different choices here for caps. So this is a factory made cap for fermenting that allows the air to escape the gas, because as it starts to ferment, it'll create carbon dioxide, which will build up inside of a sealed jar. So you want some way for that to escape. That's called burping. You could use this, which is just another gadget to have. You don't need it, totally. You can use your regular canning lid and just finger tight on the top. That's it. So that the carbon dioxide can still leak out in the 3 or 4 days, which is going to take this to ferment. I always put a little date marked on there because I want to know when I did it. In about 3 days, which is a reasonable amount of time, I'm going to actually taste them to see if it's fermented enough. If they get over fermented, they'll get a little fizzy, almost alcoholic. And I think, personally, that's a little too far for me. It's personal preference. And also we have this plastic canning lid you could use as well. I've used them all. So that's it. This goes on your counter at room temperature for 3 to 4 days or more if you prefer a little more fermentation, and it's good to go. I first checked these after 4 days. They were bubbly in here, which is, again, is the carbon dioxide, which meant they were fermenting. The broth, when I tasted it, was perfectly salted and really flavorful. It's relatively clear, not cloudy. It doesn't have mold growing at the top, and most of the time, if there was any formation on the top, you skim it off and the rest is absolutely good. Again, a clean spoon. You don't want to contaminate this with dirty fingers. Don't stick your fingers in there. I also had a grape leaf on the top of this one, and the tomatoes still have the texture of fresh tomatoes. They are perfect for salads. The broth is perfect for a salad dressing. It has all the flavors of the vegetables that you added, the herbs and the tomatoes. It's absolutely delicious. And they just taste like a soft tomato. They still have that fresh flavor, and they will probably until Christmas. And it's August.
One of our other very favorite ways to ferment is to ferment carrots. And our favorite snacking carrots in the garden are these Parisian carrots. My son will eat the whole jar of these, and it's a great way to get kids to eat probiotics and not know it. It's more palatable for kids than sauerkraut. So this has been sitting on the counter for 5 days, and we're going to show you about kind of what it's looking like. And this was prepared similarly to the tomatoes. You can use the 2 teaspoons of salt per quart for carrots as well.
So these are our carrots and what it looks like. You may be alarmed by the little cloudiness that are starting to develop on the top of our carrots. And that's only because I think there are bits of ginger that were floating at the top. And this is absolutely fine. You just sort of skim it off. And we are going to give them a little taste test to see if they're ready. Generally, because of the density of carrots, and we just jam-pack them into the jar, we like to let them go for more than 4 days. It's actually been 4 days, according to my sticker here. And I'm going to pull out the pickle pebble and put it down. I did put a bay leaf in there to keep the mold level down in case something floated to the top. And I'm going to get my favorite taste test.
So I'm taste testing these carrots here, and these are my favorite fermented food. I like that they're crunchy. They're a lot more like a garden fresh carrot than like a canned carrot. So the way I tell is, well, most of it is personal taste. So I like mine crunchy, but I also like them like zesty, I guess is how you would explain it. So usually we let them go for 5 or 6 days. So I'm guessing they're pretty close. So it's pretty darn crunchy, and I really like that. But it's not quite up to the flavor that I would like, so I would say I would give it 1 more day. And they're delicious.
We hope that this video was informational, and now you can go ferment your cherry tomatoes and enjoy them well into the winter. Thanks for watching. Feel free to subscribe if this kind of content is interesting to you.